Hi, thanks for watching. This is some highlights from our online sessions that I call the Inner Sanctum online sessions. So Penny Short came to enlighten us today, and I edit out about 40 minutes from our teachers free for you to watch, because people that join our online session, it is a paid service. It is part of the way I make a living and help other teachers promote their work. So I just wanted to explain that to you today. Penny had us in stitches. Oh my God, she's so funny. So if you'd like to join the online Inner Sanctum group sessions, we have a guest teacher once a month, and I teach once or twice a month deliberate creation and energy exercises and how to tap into your intuition and how to be more psychic and all that good stuff. Please sign up on the website, Swain/Inner Sanctum. It's not expensive, but it is going up next year. It's going up quite significantly because I've got more things planned for next year. It's not expensive. If you sign up now, then you'll keep that same price into next year. It won't go up for you for people who sign up in 2019. So I hope you join us if you're somebody that wants to make a difference in this world and feel like you've got something to share and you'd like a little support team and meet other teachers and meet some of the guests I have on the show and hear wonderful stories and wonderful teachings. So enjoy the highlights, and I'll see you soon. Big love. Bye for now. And welcome to the Inner Sanctum November with guest teacher. I'm just trying to think of the date. It's the 18th here, 17th in the US, with guest teacher Penny Short. Yay! Welcome, Penny, to the Inner Sanctum.
Thank you so much.
It's so great to have you here. Well, we might just go over a little bit of your story, Penny. Let's hear a little bit about your journey.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me on board. It's really lovely to be here and really lovely to be with kindred spirits, all on a journey of life. My journey started, as everyone starts, from interesting experience. So when I was 17, I was away with family, and I had quite a strong vision. So my normal field of view changed as I was literally walking along a street, and I could see myself in a completely different landscape. And I was walking amongst people that were tall and lean, and they were very, very black. I thought, my goodness, I don't think I've ever seen human beings as black as that. The earth was really red, like you've experienced in Uluru. The trees were extremely green. I don't know, there's gradients of green, and the sky was profoundly blue, and I felt completely at home and where I needed to be. As that vision, it lasted for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then it faded. And then as I walked back to the family, I told Mum, and she said I was dehydrated and to have a drink of water. But I knew that wasn't the case. Fast forward 20 or so years, I was a school teacher sitting in the classroom, and I got this time to go, this tap, tap, tap time to find that place where it was with the, very, very dark people. And so I applied for teaching jobs in Vanuatu and all around Australia, anywhere that it had literally, Indigenous, very dark folk. I didn't get anything, no response. I went for lots of interviews, nothing. A year later, I was at a party, a guy walked in. It was, those things where the room freezes, music stops. It doesn't really, but in your mind it does. And I ran up to this guy and I went, "Where are you from?" Because he was big beard, big long hair. And it was a Sydney party, so it was all very groovy. And he said, "I'm from Canberra." And I went, "Oh, that's not the answer I was thinking of." And I said, "Where have you just been?" And he said, "I have just been living in a place called Guppawiak." And I burst into tears, started to cry, and I went, "That's my place." And he started to talk to me about it. And it was in a very remote community in northeast Arnhem land. Fast track a year, he helped to get me there. Which they didn't want to employ a single white female from Sydney, which understandably, because, they actually said to me, which was extremely rude, "It's only because you want to go up there and have pickaninny children," which was not the case. I thought that was profoundly rude and disgraceful. Anyway, I got the job. I arrived. I'm flying in. I don't know if you know Australia, but it's the northern part of Australia, extremely remote. There is a road that's only open 6 months of the year because the floods come and just, wipe out the roads. And you have to basically fly in, fly out. There's only 400 people in the whole community. And so as I'm flying in this little aircraft, like a giant mosquito, with knees up my nose, and the aircraft and the little microphone was so loud with all my belongings, holding on to me. And I had my sensible shirt, my sensible skirt, and I was all very sensible. And as I arrived, there was no one there. And the pilot actually said to me, honey, you are not going to last. I'm going to be back in a week and I'm going to be picking you up. He said, you are not going to last out here, kiddo. No one does. And I'm like, yes, I will. Yes, I will. And as we landed, he took off and left me standing, by myself in the middle of nowhere on this dirt airstrip. It was about 400 degrees Celsius. I used to have long plaits, and I had plaits and they were wet. I was extremely damp within 10 minutes. The heat was profound. And I'm standing there going, right, nobody was there. I'm thinking, okie dokie. Anyway, this truck with, I'm sure you've seen lots of Aboriginal videos and stuff. It was kind of like the gods must be crazy. This truck with no doors and no windscreen, a steering wheel and a couple of seats in this car came and picked me up. They didn't speak English. I didn't speak Yolngu at the time. And it was like, hello, nice to meet you. Ever so polite. And they were like, yep, get in the car. I got in the car, trying to make conversation. I was so off kilter. Oh my God, I was just being wrong. Anyway, they dropped me at my door with a key. The key didn't work. They had to go down and find another key. Next minute, it was starting to get dark. The mosquitoes were coming, and I don't know if, I'm sure Salt Lake City person knows the mosquitoes up there are like low-flying aircraft. They are so enormous, and they're going meow, meow, and they were like swarms. All I'm going, oh my God! No one told me about the magnitude of the life here. And as I walked out to the front to try and find someone to find a new key to this door, I stopped in a puddle, and the puddle was full of scorpions. It's like, oh my God, there's scorpions on my feet and there's mosquitoes on my head. And I walked to the end, and then there was a dead dog at the end. And then oh my God, there's a carcass of a kangaroo. Oh my God, a carcass of a kangaroo. Oh my God, there's a turtle carcass. There were carcasses everywhere. I was an Indigenous community. What did I expect? Knives and forks? I don't know. So the first, 5 minutes was quite profound. I was like in full, oh my God, what have I done? But as I walked to try and find a person to get a new key, I knew in my body, I knew I was in the right place. Oh. I don't know why I knew, but the most profound thing was, as I walked down that little, we can't say street, but little pathy thing, there were the people that I'd seen in my vision. There was that red dirt. There was that, well, it wasn't blue sky, but the next day it was a blue sky. There was the green. There was that vision. So that just shuddered all through my system. So I knew it would be an uphill battle. And the next thing I saw was a pig, and the pig was coming, those great big pig, not a little pig, like big pig. Right. Right, the nice little preschool teacher from Sydney is in this steep gradient of, oh my God, what am I doing? Anyway, long story, I was there. The pilot was wrong. I was there for 2 years.
Right.
Just under 2 years.
You had me cracking up your story. But I just wanted to say, you can't imagine. Like I have not been to outback Australia, but I've been to the country. You just can't imagine what it's like until you go there. I know, Kristen, you've got a glimpse of it having been to Uluru. Yeah. Like the heat, the oppressiveness of the
Arizona heat. Might know that. The heat.
Arizona, yeah, you might know. Yeah. But I mean, the thing about the heat's one thing, but as Penny was saying, the flies. when Kristen and Jonah and everyone came back, you were talking about the flight. Like you go out and you just get attacked by flies. So,
The Great Australian Salute.
the Great Australian Salute. Absolutely. It's it's unimaginable. It's unimaginable. And the mosquitoes, like you say, low flying.
They're low-flying aircraft. Honestly, they are huge. You think, what's that animal? As it's coming to you, oh, it's a mosquito. Oh my God. And then you got DDT all over you. I'm thinking that's not good either. Okay.
I'll
So
tell you.
the funniest part of that was right at the end, just before I came back. I had changed so much, and I had these big daggy, Cancer Council sunnies, and I would put wet ones around the sunnies, the sunglasses, wet ones around the sunglasses, and wet ones up my nose, because as I was driving, and you had to have two hands on, because I got a truck in the end, because I just needed to get out and about. So I got this big 4-wheel drive, get out of town truck that came down with Noah and the Ark. So old, you had to kick it into gear. So and you only drove like 500 meters, and you'd be hitting a frill-neck lizard or a snake or something, and they'd wrap around your wheel, and you'd be up, snakes in your door. And you'd be hitting a buffalo, like every sort of 2 kilometers, there'd be a buffalo coming at you. So, and you have to swerve. They would literally come at you until I learnt. And my horn didn't work. So I had a billy can, and I was banging it on the side because I don't like noise. So you'd be driving with one hand, banging the billy can out the window, because obviously clearly no air conditioning with the, the prehistoric model of Toyota. Just to get the buffaloes out of your drive. And so you couldn't be doing the fly thing. So you had to do the fly protection, which was the wet ones around, because the flies would go under your sunglasses and then you couldn't see, and the flies would go up your nose. So you'd have to breathe like that with the wet ones in there, and drive really fast with the billy out the side. So that was a good experience. Yeah.
Has anyone seen Crocodile Dundee, and he hits the buffalo and he goes, and he mesmerizes the buffalo? Did you do any, was it a buffalo or whatever it was? Did you do any of that?
No. But I had a few very, very, very intimate connections with crocodiles, which, whoa, boy. Yep. That's a different story. So anyway, we had nearly 2 years of daily entertainment like that, being chased by brolgers. I was a teacher, so I left the door open accidentally one day, and the pig was in my classroom as I rocked up to work, and how to get a pig out of a classroom is always good fun. Anyway, that's not spiritual. That's just practical.
Oh, it's bloody hilarious.
Yeah.
Cracking up the whole time. But I mean, the thing about it is that it teaches you, when you're in these extreme environments, you can't find comfort from your external environment. You have to find that comfort within, which I think probably the Indigenous people were really good at. It's just a matter, look, I'm a fleshy white, I call myself a fleshy white person, and I see them sitting out there in the dirt and with flies all over them in the heat, and they're not bothered. Just so not bothered. Not bothered at all, and I think we can all learn from that, that it's
what you get used to.
Yeah, we're so addicted to
comfort,
trying to control our external environment so that we can feel good, right? Instead of just finding that comfort within, like finding our peace, our solace, our connection to source, like finding that within.
Yeah.
Hi, Bob.
And one day when I was just had it with here, I went out for a weekend, and I drove, because it was basically about 4 hours into town. Town had stable electricity, and town had a shop. So I drove for 4 hours to get ice cream, and because there was no freezer and the ice bricks would melt in 30 seconds anyway, so there's no point having, I had to eat a whole 2 liters of ice cream. And I didn't realize that when you eat 2 liters of ice cream, your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth. And then I had to drive 4 hours with my tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. And still the wet one's there and the wet one's there. But the funniest thing was I went to the ladies in town and I took my sunglasses off. I don't know if anyone remembers Yahoo Serious. Anyway, he was a comedian. And I had white eyes and I had red all around here and white where the wet ones were sticking out of my nose. And my hair had actually gone that way because the window was down and the wind was, so I had this red hair, even though I was blonde, I had red hair sticking out there and white face. And I just walked into the shop to get the ice cream. And I sat outside eating the ice cream. And then I went to the toilet and then I realized what I actually look like. It was very charming. So I just got back in my truck and drove another 4 hours home. But when you drive home, you had to walk through the rivers because the crocodiles were there. So you have to park your car, bash your billy can together, and then walk through the river. The only reason you have to walk through the river is because if there's any divots in the road and your tyre gets stuck there, your whole vehicle goes down and can slide down the river, which happened a lot. A lot of people's vehicles got slid down the river, and then they got charming sessions with a crocodile. Anyway, so I do that. So anyway, I'm painting a picture that it wasn't the normal city environment where we're all meditating and, you know, kumbaya together. It was nothing like that. So I also got to realize that I was a chatter. Hello, how you going? And that is not the Indigenous way. The Indigenous way is very quiet. They watch and they will speak when they need to speak. You don't ask 1,000 questions, you just have to watch. So this is what I had to become aware of when I was teaching in that environment. I was very much into teaching, but that is not the case. They were role modeling the whole time. So I had to be very present to how I was speaking and who I was and my language and everything. And then I had to make an agreement with the kids that I would be the teacher in the morning and we would learn English and maths, and then you would be the teacher in the afternoon and I'd go hunting with them, because I had a truck and these kids didn't eat much, and the only way they got food was to go out bush, and we would catch frillneck lizards. And I mean, you know, the screen's not big enough to show you, but that times 3 is a normal fish that we would catch with no bait, just by putting a hook in the river. They are huge. I couldn't actually lift them. I wasn't strong enough to lift the fish. And it was barramundi and Saratoga, and then you'd catch the fish and you have to cut it in thirds because the chunks were so big. And so we just put that in a ground fire, and they would teach me language. So I learnt to speak some Yolngamata, and they learnt to speak some English. They were better at speaking English than I was at Yolngamata. But anyway, but in there, that was also part of the acceptance of how I became part of the family. And then I was given my name. And I think in Greek culture, the name day is really, really important for people in that culture. But this was also very important in Indigenous culture, where I was given my name. And it wasn't one of those lovely experiences where it's all, you know, beautiful and you come up the front and we all clap and then, no, it was not like that. There were ceremonies all the time. They're called bungals, not corroborees. They're called bungals. So there were bungals all the time. And so one of the bungals just happened to be, the old woman came up to me with a burning branch, right? Burning leaves, and were whacking me on the head. And I thought, my head's going to ignite. What on earth are you doing? Why are you whacking me? What have I done wrong? Whack, 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 whack. I'm thinking, oh, for Pete's sake, they're a bunch of nuts. And they just went, yo, Woolaminda. And it's like, Woolaminda, what are you talking about? And they just gave my name, Woolaminda Guyala. And that means, and my sister luckily my Aboriginal sister could speak English. So she said, woman in the rain. I thought, oh, that's so boring. I want it to be like dolphin streaming or butterfly flying. I don't want to be woman in the rain. That's dead boring. That's a dumb one. I wanted a beautiful totem. Anyhow, that was the one I was given. So jolly good show. And it took a couple of months for them to actually give me that totem. Great. Thanks so much. What do you say? Cheers. What do you do with that? Anyway, I didn't know what to do with it after I got the head smashed and shoved in the river and back again. And then they walked away. That was the end of the ceremony. I didn't even know the ceremony was coming, mind you. And I didn't know it was finished, mind you. And it took me ages to really realize what that was. until later on in the year when it was dry. And when it was dry, it was dry, no rain. So they used to play football games, and they'd run around with socks because they didn't have enough money for shoes. And, you know, they might share socks, and it was really quite funny. And they were just sticks, and they were the goalposts, and they'd run between the goalposts. Anyway, there was the grand final, which is very different to how we would do a grand final. But everyone come in from the neighbouring communities, but they wanted to finish this game, but the clouds were gathering, and so it looked like there was a massive storm about to hit. And when the storms come, they really come. The storms are about to hit. So the old men went to old ladies. The old ladies went to me, or went to the younger ladies. The younger ladies came to me. And they went, yo, wominda, yaka, which means no, yaka gapul, which means, hey, you, stop the rain. I'm like, oh yeah, good one. Like, how do you do that? And they just went, like, you bit of a goose head, just do it. So, well, there's no, like, okay, so that's my name, Ulminagoyala Goodo, and I'm the rain person, but what do you actually mean by that? Where's the instruction manual? No one's talked to me about it. How do I do this? And they just walked away. I had to learn on the spot. And the whole thing was mimicking, so you would never get an answer to a question. You had to watch, and I hadn't been present to watching anyone do their thing, so I didn't actually know what that meant. So lucky I was creative. I walked up to this little mound, and I stood on the mound, and my best Yolangamata, I said in language, I said, hi, Wilma. That was the name for the rain. Hi, Wilma. Love your work. Thanks so much for coming, but we don't want you now. How about you come back in 2 weeks? Okay, thank you, but not now. We'd like you to go away. This is the English version, so it's very different. And come back in 2 weeks. Okay, thanks. I don't know, how do you do thanks to, I don't know. Anyway, thanks. And I came down from the mountain, and well, it wasn't a mountain, it was a little hill. And came back, and I thought, well, who do I talk about that? So I just was quiet, and I watched the sky as literally these cumulonimbus, they looked like it was about to storm. It just went away. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I thought, okay, well, that wasn't me. Maybe that was just a collective. Anyway, they finished the game, and it was all very good. No one came up and said, go girl. Obviously, there's no response to that. 2 weeks later, it poured. And I had forgotten I'd said marama, 2 weeks, until one of the girls actually came back to me, because I had told her what I'd said. And she said, hey, look, 2 weeks, you're on it. And that was the only identification that I could do. And then I've had a couple of experiences after that where there's been the creation of rain or the stopping of rain. And of course, for my 18th and my all significant, except for my wedding day, every significant event, it has been one of the biggest storms in.
We were just saying, Kristen and Barbara, I think you weren't on, we were just saying about Penny, because of the fires, we were chatting about the fires here in Australia and how big they are. Somebody had posted under Penny's thing on Facebook, you know, can you do your work? Can you know, Penny, can you bring the rain? And Penny was saying that she was praying for rain, and then she went to Canberra and it was bucketing down
At the wedding.
Wrong place. So the rain followed you. You see, you needed to stay in New South Wales. Well, I suppose you were in New South Wales, but you needed to stay.
ACT, yeah. So I'm standing there with the umbrella going, right, that's not the best. But anyway.
Oh dear, I just want to interject here. Oh, such a great story. You've just been cracking me up the whole time. Oh, I love the way you tell your stories, Penny. I just wanted to just give that message again now that we're recording, of what I got at Kirtan the other night, because it was really interesting. I was thinking of you, Penny, when I got this message. So on Friday night, we were at Kirtan. We had the Kirtan Collective, and there were about 12 or 13 musicians and singers singing, and we dedicated the night to the firefighters and what's happening here in Sydney. And we're all praying for rain and doing our rain dances and stuff like that. And I got this download from the mob, and they said, if you're going to pray for rain, remember to thank the fire. And it was interesting because I thought of you when you thanked the rain, you know, when you spoke to her and you thanked her. Thank you for coming, but could you come back? Rather than saying, just go away, you know, like, you know, thank you. That reverence that you had. I thought about that and I got this download and they said, if you're going to pray for rain, remember to thank the fire. And I said, why would you thank the fire? Because we're all into the drama of the fire and how it's devastated families and killed people and burnt down homes. And so we're all in the resistance of how horrible and horrific and terrible it is. And they said, well, it's all part of Gaia's digestive metabolistic, you know, metabolism, her metabolizing process. It's all a part of how she looks after her body, right? And I'm like, okay. And then they said, think about your own body. Think of the fire in your digestive system. You know, when you eat food, there's this acidic response that literally disintegrates the food in your digestive system so that you can process it, you know, breaks it down. And then obviously the rain would be your saliva. And they started going through the body. The rain would be your saliva. And obviously the earth is your body, and the ether, the wind, because we've had these huge winds that have been fanning the fires. So the wind is your breath, and they were just sort of going through the body as the earth, you know. And I'm thinking, and they were saying to me, there's like 100 people here, you need to give them this message. And I didn't give them the message because I was in the audience and not on the stage. And I wasn't about to like break out on the stage and say, stop everything, I need to give you a message. But they said, you humans, you're singing about love, you're evoking love. But you have to remember that if you evoke love, you have to love all of it. So remember to love the fire. And the most important part of this message was, you know how to live on the earth, but you don't know how to live with the earth. And if you understood how to live with the earth, it makes me cry thinking about it, you wouldn't have the devastation and the trauma that you experience with the fires. You would understand how to work with the digestive system of the planet Gaia herself. So I think that, you know, Penny, what you experience living out in country with the Indigenous is they totally know this. And this message is so important as we ramp up. I'm going to cry for more earth changes.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Karen. But it's also macrocosm, microcosm. How we do that with the earth and also how we do that with our own body. Yeah. And we may not get what we want in our physical body, but it is being at peace and being okay with all the changes that happen within our physical body and not resisting it, not fighting it, but appreciating absolutely everything. And even being an activist for anything, whether it's 5G rollout, whether it's climate change, whether it's closing of a hospital nearby, whatever activism we do, or whether we've got body stories going on, whatever, it's seeing the macrocosm, microcosm, that there is a journey to be walked. And if we can breathe with it and feel, yeah, there's lessons and there's positivities and negativities and all that. But if we can actually feel and not have resistance to the journey and be super grounded and really, I just think reverent, which is similar to what the little things I want to do when we get into the teaching part of it. It makes such an enormous difference. We don't feel the fight all the time, because the fight just persists stuff. But when we get into that figure eight, so my philosophy, I think ever since a child, has always been this figure eight. And I use the words offer and receive in that flow. What are we offering to the earth? What are we receiving to the earth? But what are we offering? Yes, we receive this bountiful thing. What are we offering to our body? What are we receiving from our body? What are we offering to our family? What are we receiving from our family? And that stops the fight and the resistance. And in that, I think, creates a lot of disharmony. But when we see the injustice, that creates fight as well. And what we're doing to the planet and all that is yeah, it's not ideal, but I truly believe, and this is what I've also been feeling, is in the fires, as you were saying, that fire is very cleansing, but fire is also very confronting. And in the confront, the politicians and all the people that are in power are really having to have a look now and work in a very different model of sustainability, because it's right in their face. And also when I do house clearings and stuff, I always use the fire element, because the fire element will be the one thing that burns off a lot of the anger, the residue of anger. The fire element will be the one that will burn off a lot of trauma. It will burn off a lot of drug stuff. So it is deeply, deeply cleansing and also very confronting. And then we move into the other elements that are more balancing. But yeah.
Well, you've just experienced what we're talking about in such a private, personal, I shouldn't say private, well, personal way.
Yeah.
Because you're an energy healer and you teach energy healing, you teach people about the energy anatomy and healing. And then last year, you know, I spoke to Penny after the show and said, I'd love you to come into the Inner Sanctum, and booked her like 8-10 months in advance because I had other people booked in. And we didn't really chat for most of that. And then I said, so, hey, you know, a couple of months ago, are you ready to sort of come into the Inner Sanctum? And you said, well, I haven't been thinking about it because I've been going through my own journey with healing. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Very happy to talk that. I'll just finish up. I came back from Arnhem Land, profound experiences in truly listening. I learned how to listen. I learned how to watch. I realized I was quiet while other people were speaking, but I wasn't feeling listening. I wasn't listening as a whole body experience. And I saw how they did that. I watched how they communicated with each other as full energetic body experiences. And sometimes they would look at me to get an answer without asking a question of me. They would look and they would read me, and I could feel myself being read by them. And that was a normal dialogue. That was what everybody did all the time. And the telepathy was profound. People knew stuff about me. When my grandfather died, and these old women had walked for 2 days before they even knew my grandfather died to meet me at the airstrip, so I could go home to my grandfather's funeral, with gifts and everything. Anyway, that's another story. But they taught me about speaking to the deceased, that was a natural thing for them to speak to spirit. Whether it was an ancestral spirit or a recently deceased person. They talked to me about a funeral and what it is. They talked to me about portals and how they're, like Aboriginal dancers, are actually opening and closing of portals with the earth. And that's why they usually dance on sand, so they can flick it up, open, and then also close it at the end. And smoking ceremony, what the smoking is actually for. So by truly listening and watching and feeling, I got to uptake their way of being, which was so different from the straighty 180 mindset of white Anglo-Saxon mindsets. I found it so hard to come back to Sydney. Even though I'd only been away for nearly 2 years, I could not get back into Sydney life for years. Anyway, long story. So I started energetic healing. That was the story. I don't need to go into that now. I started my business in energetic healing quite a few years later. And so for the last maybe 10 years, I've been full-time energetic healer, really busy clinic down the road, running courses, running retreats, running, loving what I was doing. Great business, great relationship with a beautiful man who I adored, great family. I had worked through a lot of my personal childhood stuff, you know, during this, because I believe at the end of every day, if I had a client and there was something there, I would look at the reflection in me and go through any reflection in me of what I had that was similar with a client. I'd have a look at judgment. So I was pretty active in my personal confront. Then April last year, in meditation, I just had this really strong feeling to go to the doctor and just get a checkup. there was nothing. There was no reason. So when she said why, and I went, I don't know. And she said, okay, well, we'll just send you for a blood test and a scan. And I went, okay. But I didn't know what I'm fine. I don't know why I'm here, but I know I need a checkup. Found a cyst on the ovary. Okay, that was April last year. And she said, oh, okay, well, we'll send you to a gyno. The gyno said, yeah, don't like the look of it. We'll put you on the waiting list to get it removed. It's just pretty minor. It's, no rush. So I was on the waiting list just to get it removed. December came. So that's April to December. December came. I got a very, very strong meditation that was almost like a push from behind. Go back to the GP right now. Hustle, hustle, hustle. And then, so I went back to the GP. The cyst had doubled in size. I was on the waiting list. The gyno said, right, 14th of February, you're the first cab off the rank because I'm going away. Good on you. And then, so from December until February, every meditation I had, I heard the word chemotherapy. I thought, fudgy wudgy, was it there? Right. That's not me. I don't do chemotherapy. No. And I thought, why on earth am I doing this? So that was, I had a long time. I told my husband, but I didn't sort of declare it too well, just in case it wasn't right. Anyway, 14th of February came, the operation came, they tested the cyst. It was ovarian cancer. She did say, you need to do chemotherapy. You've got 2 weeks to decide if you want to do chemotherapy or not. Ripperita, okay. So all my meditations had been tapping me about chemotherapy. And I thought, why am I doing this? Is it non-confront? Is it I've got an outness somewhere? What? And ironically, the stupid part was that in my meditation for most of last year was I'm strong, healthy, clean, and lean. Because I wanted to lose a bit of weight, I wanted to get back and fit. So last year and I love actually going to the gym because most of my day is very yin. So I love going to the gym and doing weights because that's very yang and I love that balance. So I was doing a lot of that. I was feeling really good. So I don't know what this cancer story is. So in those 2 weeks I had to decide. Of course, I went to every single person in the medical model and in the Chinese healing model, in the acupuncture model, and also within myself to find out what the truth was and where I should go. And every single person, hands down, told me to do chemotherapy. Within myself, when I did deep meditations, I was told to do chemotherapy. It was stage 1. It wasn't a biggie. And the oncologist kept saying, how did you find it? We never see stage 1. And I went, I just had a feeling. Yeah, but what feeling? Where was the feeling? What was the feeling? I went, it was more like an intuition feeling. Yes, but where was the pain? I went, there was nothing. So we had this roundabout conversation with every single oncologist I got to speak to, which was completely ridiculous. But anyway, in the end, I remember the decision that I actually went back and I said, yes, I'll do chemotherapy. So I did it. And I must say it was particularly unpleasant. I don't know if anyone's gone down that journey or seen someone. You think you're pretty tough and you think you've got all the keys, but actually going through it, yeah, not the best experience. But I always see it's like, okay, figure 8, what's this journey of offer and receiving? Like, what is this experience with my body? I'm offering it. I thought I was pretty healthy with all the food I was offering it. But you know what? I wasn't actually receiving. I didn't know that until the first time I was in it was such an extraordinary experience in the chemo room with the catheter going in my arm, and the first, I don't know if anyone's felt it, but it's like ice going through your body, and my brain just went like on standby. And so lucky I had access to spirit. So the spirit became the dominant way of operating for the next 5 months. And in there, I could start to see things and feel things and childhood memories that I had completely forgotten. Like my very first day in kindergarten in primary school, I was in my body as a 5-year-old, seeing the room, looking at the crayons going, oh, they're yucky crayons. Someone's used those for 100 years. But not knowing how to hold the crayon properly and how to write over my name and the pressure of it all. And I could feel myself in that. And that's what the chemo was doing. It really closed my brain. But I was recounting all these experiences. And then I realized I wasn't breathing with the living universe. And I had lots of little experiences during those chemo times where I felt I wasn't receiving the living universe. I was controlled in my physical body and not literally offering. And I realized that I'm very good at do. I'm also good at be. I can truly be, and I can be in a deep meditation. Do I receive? Yeah, I think people do things for me, and people, very kind and say thank you so much. But energetically, do I receive? And what that felt like. And then I was present to that. And my family and my friends, my God, the authenticity of the giving. And I realized how in the past I'd always stopped that. Oh, no, don't worry, you don't have time. It's all right, I'll do it for you. This was my nature. And I could not do anything. So my family loved giving, and they would come with the most beautiful food, I might say. They would come and they would give, and there was no giving from me. I just had to learn. Thank you. I'd say, I'd be quiet, but thank you so much. And they felt that that was their way to give. And my husband giving to me in the way. And I learnt the different ways people would give. Sometimes, it's the languages of love, but on steroids. People's gift sometimes was actually their worry. That was still giving to me. They didn't do anything in the physical universe, but I knew that their worry was their way of giving to me. I knew their texting with 1,000 emojis was their way of giving to me. One lady flew, 2 hours from Queensland, which is the north part of Australia. She flew down, hired a hotel for a couple of nights, came with these beautiful fluffy pink jumpers. She knows I like fluffy pink jumpers. Fluffy pink jumpers, beautiful bracelets, a wrap. She said, I know you get cold when you're doing chemo. Here's a wrap. I can't give you a hug all the time, but this is my hug. And I actually got 3 wraps with the same dialogue. I can't give you a hug all the time, but here's a wrap for you when you do chemo. And I realized that I'd been giving, but the frequency of my giving too, I had to make sure it was in a frequency that they could receive. So my giving has changed as well. My giving isn't always just doing. It does have to have a frequency on top of the act. And when I receive, I'm still learning the depths of receiving and what that actually feels like. And now when my husband says, I really love you so much, I feel it rumble through I've always felt that rumble. That's sort of not different, but I've always felt the rumble through my whole field of the authenticity. But I now feel the engagement of people when they come in the receiving. And that's second chakra, the receiving. And I'm still learning, and it's still a growth, and it's still, that's just one part of it. Pull their head in. A lot of
Oh, darling, that is just so profoundly beautiful. I've just got so many downloads about that. Because here's the thing. To me, as somebody that is diametrically opposed to chemotherapy as a healing modality, I didn't understand how you could get guidance on it. And now I've just received that understanding absolutely so clearly. And this is going to speak to all of you online, and all of you that are listening to the recording. You know, as caregivers, as difference makers, as teachers, as coaches, as light weavers, we're really good at giving. You know, we give advice and we give our love and we do things for people. But yeah, that sometimes that receiving thing is really not given enough attention to. And we get so righteous in our giving. Like we as humans get so caught up in our rightness, whether we're arguing for our limitations or arguing, you know, because we're and it's like the chemotherapy was the fire. Sometimes Spirit says, in order for you to get this message, I need to bring you to your knees. I need to knock you out of your righteousness. You're right about this. I need to bring you to your knees. And fire, as you said, does that. You know, it's confronting. It's like in the face of the fire, you're helpless, right? And so I understood that the chemotherapy, the message was not that chemotherapy was going to heal you. It was going to bring you to a point. It was going to bring you to your knees, to a point where you had to let go and receive your own inner guidance and wisdom, and receive that love. Oh, Kristen's crying. Oh. And as you were talking, Penny, I knew when you told me about it that there was a good reason that you went through this. And I knew that you would share your story with others. And I knew that you went through the chemo because you would be talking to people that are going through chemo, that have been brought to their knees. So you'd have to be that relatable. But just listening to you share your story now just totally confirmed everything that I knew, in a way where it's like how beautifully you shared the story, and how real and how beautifully, and just so important. It's such an important message, especially to the light weavers, the caregivers, you know, to remember to receive. I'm going to shut up because I'm a blubbering mess. All right.
So what that feels like too, like I've always known about receiving, and, you know, you've got to give and receive, but I didn't really know the like, I knew the felt of it, the feel of it. Like, that's, everyone knows when somebody, you know, cooks you a beautiful dish and you say thank you so much. But when you are on your knees, and when you are on the floor and you cannot get off the floor, where, Kristen, you'd know that, where you cannot move, and somebody just touches you, you know, with a caress, and you receive that, it's like breaking down the whole of your energetic field, letting it go and breathing with the energy of that person as they are giving to you. It's not just receiving it in your heart, it's a full body, whole body, breathing with that person as they share their love. And that's why I did it very privately. I didn't tell many people, because many people couldn't cope with that and, you know, wanted to whatever. But I knew energetically I could cocoon myself. So no one even thought of me. No one knew anything. I was completely cocooned, like I was off grid. And I know I can do that energetically. But when somebody would give to me in that cocoon, the filling up of the body was actually very profound and deeply healing for me.
Penny, you do healings online, and
Yes.
you're going to start to put your teaching sessions online in podcasting, and start doing groups like I'm doing in the Inner Sanctum. How can people get in touch with you and have a session with you and find out about all of that?
They can jump online to truefrequency.com.au and follow the little tabs to the booking calendar, and they can just book themselves in for a Skype session or a FaceTime session if they would like to do that, or see me in person. I'm in Randwick, and there's a little tab on the meditation on the website as well, and that's called Meditations, and there's a whole bunch of different meditations that they can download there as well.
Wonderful. And I see you teaching teachers as well.
Yes.
teaching people to teach others, you know,
Yes.
about sushumnas and chakras and energy,
Yeah.
kind of energy anatomy, and
Yeah.
like
Very practical.
a very
I
practical.
like the very practical approach to energetic healing. So it's grounded, it's clear, so we know what we're doing. As above, so below. We can only download as much as we're grounded in who we are and how we are and what we know.
Yeah,
and let the feeling come through, but we do need the framework of being grounded. We look at all the things of what stops us actually being grounded to hold these higher frequencies.
Yeah. And I'd love to see this taught in schools, like you said that you did it with your kindergarten class.
Yeah.
So for any of those teachers out there, you know, I'd love to see you do this with your children, whether they're kindergarten or high school.
Yeah.
You know, you can use different language. If your peers don't like talking about chakras or energy, you can just talk about posture. I don't know. You can color it with different language, but you can teach energetic healing and deliberate creation. Just anyway, so I'd love to see it taught in school.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you for
Thanks for having me on. It's lovely.
Guest teacher.
It's beautiful. Thank you.